Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining today. The webinar will start shortly. Okay, well, let's begin. So welcome to today's webinar, everyone. It's entitled Your Easy Path to AI Success, Getting Started and Getting Value. Today's webinar is hosted by Inawisdom's Head of Data Science, Dimitrios Gontzes, and we really hope to show you the power of AI and really how to implement it into your own organizations for the best results. And a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please do post them in the chat. And as we go along, I'll be happy to ask these either during or after the presentation today. We also have 3 polls coming up. They're completely anonymous and will just help us understand better where everyone is on their AI journey. So when the polls come up, just click on the most relevant answer to you and then we'll share the results as we go through. So with that, thank you again for attending, and I will now hand over to Dimitrios to start the presentation.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Dimitrios, and this is a session around AI solutions, specifically your easy path to AI success. So if you are ever wondered how to get started or how to get value from your AI solutions, well, you're in the right place. Okay. I hope you can see my screen okay. Tab, let me know if everything is going according to the plan. So after a quick intro, we will talk about what is AI and the art of the possible. We will also look at the basic building blocks that every AI solution has. And then we will dive into some real life examples. We will leave a lot of time in the end to answer any questions that you have. But as Tab said, feel free to add your questions in the GoToWebinar, and then we'll pick them up as we go on. We want to make this a little bit more interactive because, you know, webinars can be a little bit boring. So I'm hoping to make this a bit interactive. All right, intro about ourselves. So in Inawisdom, we are passionate about delivering AI and data solutions to our customers using the power of the cloud. We were founded in 2016, and now we have grown a lot. We're 100 people across different geographies, UK, the Netherlands, and Middle East, and we have customers all around the world, which is really, really exciting. We are also partners with AWS. Specifically, we are an AWS Premier Consulting Partner, which is the highest partnership that you can get with AWS. And we have been recently given the award of the best machine learning partner of the year, which is a great accolade, and we are super happy about it. Okay, so in Inawisdom, we do believe in collaboration. And in order to deliver amazing solutions to our customers, we need to have skills across the technology spectrum. So apart from AI and machine learning, which is the team that I lead, we need to have an understanding of cloud architecture and infrastructure. We need to understand very well data, ETL processes and transformations, as well as how to use the data, data engineering, how to analyze it in the best way. And of course, on top of that pyramid is the AI and machine learning, and that's really where the magic happens. We also help customers embed these solutions in their business, and this is really where something that from technology becomes an actual thing that you can use. Okay, so before we move forward, I would like you to perhaps complete this poll. We would like to hear what you think about AI. How familiar are you with that? The answers are anonymous, so please take a few seconds to complete that, and then we will analyze it together. All right, I am waiting for this. There are definitely different people are familiar with AI, but there are different levels there. So feel free to tell us what you think, because then I can perhaps change a little bit how the presentation goes. I can go faster or slower in certain areas. Okay, let me see. All right. Very interesting results. And I definitely feel that this represents the reality of what we see out there. So there's a lot of talk about AI, which is great, and we read a lot about it. And I think most of us feel comfortable with that answer. But I can definitely see some other people knowing more about it, and some others knowing a lot more, but they don't know how to start. And some others know a lot about it, but perhaps there is a question of how do we actually go to the next level. So don't worry, we are going to talk about all these in this session. Okay, now moving on to the art of the possible. There are basically two strands of how analytics work and work for you. One is using traditional coding, and the other one is using artificial intelligence. So I'm going to use a very simple example here just to make this a bit more, come to life. Let's say that we have pictures of animals, and we need to understand if the animal is a cat or a dog. Now, according to traditional coding, which is something that has been, in our lives for many, many, many years, the developer here needs to write explicit rules about how, what determines a cat and what determines a dog. So in our situation, in traditional coding, the developer should write something like, if the animal has pointy ears, then it is perhaps a cat, okay? But that's not always correct, and that's where artificial intelligence comes in. In AI, we do not write explicit rules, but we allow the machine to learn these rules on its own. That allows us to actually cover more cases and solve more complex problems. So in this situation, the AI might come up with its own rules, like if the animal has a poofy tail, or if it has a certain kind of fur, or perhaps a combination of how their eyes look like and what the shape of their ears are, or if they have whiskers, and so on. So it can go really above and beyond what we can do as humans, and it can go faster than us. And of course, this is not based on magic. We are not magicians. This is all powered by statistics and mathematics. Another way of really seeing what AI is to think about what kind of problem it tries to solve. So AI really becomes part of our conversation when we talk about making predictions about the future, or making predictions about unseen situations, based, of course, on existing data. When we want to describe data, or when we want to analyze why the data behaves in certain ways, then we are talking about traditional analytics. That's not AI yet. AI becomes part of the solution when we make predictions, or when these predictions are used to inform automatic decisions. And that's the area of prescriptive analytics. And that's where you can maximize the value. A lot of organizations around the world have spoken about the importance of data. And it's interesting to see that in our day and age where everything slowly becomes more digital, in order for a company to stand out, survive, and gain that competitive advantage, they must use their data in the best possible way and in an intelligent way. And that's where AI comes in. You might be thinking, okay, what can I get from AI? So if I apply an AI solution, what will I get? So in our experience, we see 4 major categories here. The first one is around cost savings. So can we automate labor-intensive or expensive tasks by using AI? And that, if we manage to do that, we can reduce time spent on these things, so efficiency gains, or we can reduce costs. So that's one major category of value. Another one is creating new ideas, new products around the core solution, the core product that your organization provides. So adding perhaps additional features that have some prediction capability in there might create new revenue streams for you. The third one is about understanding better how perhaps your customers operate or how your products are doing out there, and help you really to make strategic decisions about the future. So being more informed and getting that foresight. And finally, being able to listen to what the customer wants and creating personalized, or sometimes we call it hyper-personalized approaches. That might create something that the customer really wants and increase loyalty, and of course, increase your brand and how it's perceived. Of course, AI comes in many shapes and forms, and it's very, very flexible. So you can see that one could use it to understand and predict customer experience, to creating supply chain predictions, or even dynamic pricing or dynamic perhaps promotions for certain products. And the interesting thing here is that we've seen that the most innovative applications of AI really use ideas from a completely different domain. So for example, I could use ideas from agriculture automation and apply them to financial services questions. And it works. It works really well because everything is controlled by data. So finding a way to maximize the value from the data really is across businesses. Right, I hope that you are following, because here comes another poll. So we want to know where you are on your AI journey. Again, it could be that you've just started, you don't know much, or it could be that you're very far in the process. So let us know what you think, and we can discuss it. Tab, if there are any questions at this point, more than happy to take them. Let's give you some time to respond. In general, we've seen more and more businesses starting that journey. So we are curious to where you are and understand how you envisage it. Okay, the audience is split. So a lot of people have said that they don't have the data they would like in order to explore AI, or perhaps they have that, but they don't know where to start. Or there could be a mix of that with different skill sets. That is true. And we see organizations struggling with all these different components. So let's go to the next part of the presentation, which is all about getting started with AI.
So Dimitrios, we've had one question,
Yeah.
which I think is probably quite pertinent to what we've just seen, is someone's
Mhm.
asked about, can you do AI without actually having data scientists?
Okay, that's an excellent question, and the answer is yes and no. We will go a little bit more in detail in the next slides, but it is very interesting that there is a race at the moment. A lot of organizations are trying to democratize AI, so give people the right tools to do AI without really needing hardcore statistical, mathematical, or data science skills. So up to an extent, yes, you can do it. And you should do it, because then you can quickly discover what works and what doesn't. But really to go underneath the surface and understand what's happening and be confident about the solutions that the results that the AI is giving you, you do need to have some level of understanding of how this works. And that's something that we will talk about, and it's something that, of course, we can help with. All right, so let's get back at it. Let's talk about the process. So this is our proven methodology of delivering solutions, and this is something that takes you from ideation to all the way to delivery within a matter of weeks. We firmly believe that this needs to be a matter of weeks, not months or years, because otherwise it becomes too heavy, too big, too hairy. So the first step here is to prioritize and understand really the business opportunity and what you're trying to achieve. We are going to talk about that in a second. After that, once you know what you're doing, let's say, for example, that you want to make some, you want to analyze sales data and customer data and predict who is going to purchase a certain product. So let's say that this is our business case. The second stage is to do a discovery. Now, this discovery is a very quick piece of work, a development work that helps you create an AI prototype. And that AI prototype will test your hypothesis. Can we use AI to predict who is going to buy that product X? If the answer to this is yes, we can, and we've built this prototype, that's great. You have something in your hands to prove that this works, and you can also measure it. So you can measure how much value can this bring to your organization if you were to take this all the way, which is a fantastic really tool to get you going. After this, the idea is to productionize the solution, productionize this prototype, which means take this prototype, make it better, code it in a better way, and really embed it in your organization so it starts serving you. And we do that in two stages. The first stage is creating a minimum viable product, the MVP, and that's really to test that the solution is good, it's stable, it does what it says on the tin, and it gives you the value that you need. And the second stage is the productionization stage, where we add all the automations, configurations, all the bells and whistles to really make this an actual product that can take the test of time and can continue being there to deliver for you. This is an agile process, and as I said, it takes you from 0 to hero in weeks. You don't need to have all the answers ready to start this journey, and there is definitely an element of learning as you go and building as you go. So keep that in mind. Okay, back to basics again. These are the basic building blocks for any AI solution out there. Having a strong business opportunity and knowing exactly what you're doing, understanding your data and having enough data to help you move forward, have a platform where your solution will live, and of course, having the right people and the right skills to help you accelerate that journey. This is a play on the typical people, process, technology that we see in change management. And this is a change management because we are introducing something new that will disrupt the operations and hopefully make things better and give you more value. So let's have a quick deep dive. Business opportunity. So being clear as to what you're trying to achieve is crucial. And we've seen that the most successful applications really start with that. Also, I don't know if you've worked with other kind of techies like myself and data scientists, but we really like following details and going into rabbit holes. So being able to see the bigger picture and saying, okay, this is the business opportunity that you need to focus, helps us guide the development and anchor what we're doing. Also, knowing what you're trying to do helps you create a successful metric for the AI solution. So once I've created my solution, can I measure how well it performs? And what does that really mean for the organization? So if you know what you're doing, then you can create some amazing KPIs linked to the business to measure it. And that gives you immediately a business case that you can take it in front of your stakeholders, and if it works well, then you say, well, you know, I can get that much value, the investment is this much, you know, it's a no-brainer, let's do it. How to do that now? So the very first step is putting down all the ideas that you have. So all the, create a long list perhaps of any analytical opportunities that you have. Sky is the limit now, so no limitations, and really imagination is free of charge, so go nuts. Once you do that, you need to start thinking about assessing these ideas and opportunities. The way we do it is we analyze it in two axes, if you want. One is around value. So how valuable is this idea for your organization? And the other side is how easy is it to actually do this technically? And you really want to find those high value, high deliverability opportunities. These are your low hanging fruits. So find them, define them, and then that will help you progress to the next stage. Now, everything that you've done here, all the opportunities that you've listed are great. So keep them because you can use them later as your roadmap or as your strategic data plan. So let's say now that we've selected one business opportunity and we clearly defined it. The next stage, of course, is data. And without data, AI cannot live. It's perhaps the blood of AI solutions. But you'll be surprised as to what kind of data you will need to actually get there, because data comes in all weird and wonderful shapes and forms. So there could be images, videos, voice, or it could be something a bit more structured like data from databases or even IoT information and sensor data. Other things that you need to have in mind is that you might be creating data in your organization, which is great, or you might need data from external resources, or perhaps you might need to get some consent from your customers to actually use that data. So keep these in mind. These all play a significant part in how you develop these solutions. And of course, data quality is important. You don't want to end up in a situation where you have garbage coming in, because then most certainly you'll get garbage out. Think about volumes, how much you have. The more data you have, the more options you have with AI. So it's good to have a lot of options. Technology matters, and sooner or later, you will have to decide where your solution will live, because it will live somewhere, and then from there you can start serving your operations. In Inawisdom, we use AWS as our cloud platform. Of course, there are many platforms, cloud platforms out there like Microsoft, Google, but we personally like AWS because it's at the top of its game, and it gives us a lot of tools really to help us accelerate this development. A cloud platform is an enabler. It hosts your solution and it helps you make it available. So it gives you tools like data management and storage. It gives us the opportunity to use crazy big devices and processors to really crunch the numbers, the difficult problems out there. But whenever we want, we can switch it back to something a bit lighter, a bit smaller and cheaper. And of course, there are different other aspects of it that we can use, different parts that all contribute to the final product. So we really like using cloud platforms for this. And finally, people and skills. There are many tools out there to actually help us get there. And as a data scientist, for me, these tools kind of make sense here, but perhaps maybe for you, these are unknowns. But think about, using different frameworks, different platforms that can accelerate this development work. The good news here is that the people skills that you need is a very flexible resourcing problem. So you can mix and match in-house resources with outsourcing, or perhaps you can upskill your technical team to learn certain skills. So the jump is not that big. And of course, obstacles exist, but what we've seen is that these obstacles are mainly perceived obstacles. Sometimes they're not real. Let's talk about data here. A very common issue that we hear from customers is, oh, I don't have enough data, or I don't have good quality data. Yes, that is an important aspect, but data scientists live and breathe with data. So we know data very well, and we can help you in understanding what needs to be collected, where the signal could lie, and perhaps add additional data sets from around the world, things that are open source, to really help you find the solution that you need. So it might sound like it's a no-go, but there might be ways to really solve this with limited data. And there are some AI options that don't require that much data. The second thing is really about lack of business buy-in, or perhaps we hear it from customers like, oh, we don't have enough funding for this. That's exactly why we suggest discovering first and investing later. So discover, create that prototype, test it, and measure how good it is. So then if you can show that the value is more than the investment, then it's a no-brainer. It's a done deal, and then your business case is pretty much ready. We talked about having an issue with not having enough data scientists. So again, flexibility in resourcing is definitely possible. And another issue here that we hear quite a lot is, oh, I have a lot of data, but I haven't really migrated them to a cloud platform. That's okay. As I said, you don't need to know all the answers before you start the journey. And in some cases, it's better not to have all the answers, because as you move on, you explore more solutions, and you're finding your way as you progress this. Okay, now it's time for me to catch my breath, and I think we have another poll for you. The question now is, what is your main obstacle with AI? It's interesting here, I threw in the idea of ethical and regulatory concerns. I'll be quite interested to see how you respond to these. A few more seconds. This is exciting. I want to see what you think. All right, results come in. Oh, no business drive, not a priority. I really like this. I think we live in a world where, I don't want to say the COVID word, but it feels like it's a priority to get our house in order, get our data in order, make sure that we are on top of what's happening. That is crucial. I definitely agree. But once you have this, and once you have everything in the right place and control, then the very interesting questions come in. Now what? Now what do I do with this data? So that's exactly the moment where you want to innovate and discover quickly and in an easy and quick way. So even if you fail, the failure is not that hard. But if you succeed, the idea is that you might have an amazing idea and you can be able to bring it to life in a very short time. All right, so let's move on then. Unless there are any questions, Tab, I'm looking at you.
No, you can keep going.
All right. Then let's look at AI in action. I have 3 takeaways for you. So if you are to learn something from this chat, perhaps it's these 3 things. So number 1 is, once you start the process and trying to find ideas, that's good, but you might get overwhelmed. You might try to do too many things and perhaps not have enough time. So my recommendation here is stick stubbornly to the low-hanging fruit and really define it, because that will allow you to move faster with more confidence. The second one, and I think I mentioned it before, but it's crucial to discover before you invest. Measure how much potential is there in that AI solution. Create that prototype and remove the uncertainty and the risk from it. So you can take this in front of your stakeholders and have an amazing business case that you can stand by it. And the last one is, you will never have everything in order. And it is an innovation, and with innovation projects, waterfall approaches really don't work. So get ready for kind of like discovering as you go and exploring the solutions as you go, which is absolutely fine. And this is how this process should be. So moving on to visualizations now, we wanted to show you how someone can consume all this information. And in my opinion, there's no point in doing all this great work, all this great analysis for it to kind of like stay on the shelf. We need to consume it, and we need to understand it and make valuable decisions at the back of this. So this is perhaps a way of showing in one big screen all of the information that one organization would need at a high level. And notice on the bottom left, there's the forecasted build amount. Now, this is where AI comes in. And this is, we are trying to make predictions about how good the sales of this particular product will be. The idea here is to have everything you need in one place, in a transparent place, to make decisions that will help you improve and achieve your goals within your organization. Right. Now I can share with you some use cases from real customers that we had. And I want to start first with ARMAX. ARMAX is a major logistics company in the Middle East. And what they needed is they wanted to digitally transform the business around customer services. So ARMAX sends a lot of products and deliveries to different customers. So they really have the customer at the center of their operations. I don't know if you're aware, but in many areas in the Middle East, there are no official address lines, so addresses. And that makes it difficult to deliver products to these customers. And when customers do not get what they need, they can get loud, they can get rowdy. So how can we help ARMAX really change how they do this operation? So what we did for them is we helped them develop and deploy more than 100 AI models and create predictions, millions of predictions per day, helping them understand where their package is and how the package will be delivered to their address. And that we just did it in 8 weeks, which is a very fast way and really shows you the flexibility and how quick things can go in AI. Now, you might hear cases of, this AI solution managed 2-3% of increase in certain things. Well, in this case, it is great to see a really big change. So we see 74% improvement in accuracy when it comes to shipping date, which, okay, you might say, okay, what does that mean? Well, if you translate it to the business context, that gave ARMAX 40% lower inbound customer calls around their shipments. So they managed to reduce almost by half the volume of the callers that they had, which is an amazing cost saving or efficiency gain story. ARMAX was big and they had loads of data and we were really spoiled here. But the idea of using AI is quite flexible. So there's another use case here that talks about a small startup called Snoop. So Snoop is a startup, and when we started working with them, they did not have a product out there. They wanted to create a fintech product where it would give recommendations to the customers when they purchase something. Let me explain this a little bit more. Let's say that you are buying a coffee at your local Starbucks, okay? So you pay with your card and that information then gets sent to that app, to the Snoop app. Now, what Snoop wanted to do is give you some recommendations and say, hey, you buy your coffee every day at that Starbucks. Have you tried the coffee across the street? Apparently, it costs 20% less. So they're trying to find these Snoops in the customer database. So that was their idea. But to do that, they had to understand what the customer needs and what the customer buys and really create a personalized tool for every single individual. Now, if you were to do that with traditional analytics, then you need to write rules for every single person and every single product that they purchase. Impossible. That's where AI comes into the picture. So what we did for them is analyze, they didn't have data, by the way, and they didn't have much funding. So we had to work with open source data and prove that a certain product could work. And we did that. And then they used this product in their application as the main feature. So when they launched the product, they managed to get an amazing response from the community because it was really unique and it gave them that competitive advantage that they needed to stay afloat and be profitable. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm more than happy now to take any questions that you might have. There are no stupid questions. I like all of them. You know, I'm ready to hear your thoughts.
Hi, Dimitrios. Thank you so much for that.
Hi.
Some fantastic insight there into wanting to get started with AI. So we've had some questions in, and if it's okay, I'll get started with some of those. So
Please
the
do.
first one is about how you assess if an opportunity is high value. So I suppose this is about how do you know when you decide to use AI in a certain proposition, how do you know that you're going to get the value out of it at the end?
Okay. There are two parts of this question. The first part is when you create that long list of opportunities, how do you know which one you should focus on to begin with? So that needs a little bit of kind of understanding your business. So you might see that you might need to do some kind of like a small study, analyze your data, maybe like a pseudo-economics comparison study to see, okay, if I do this, this is what I'll get. If I do that, this is what I'll get. And that way you can put a dollar sign next to an opportunity. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be rough. And in our experience, we've seen that of course, we will not get it bang on because we haven't really started the work, but we can get an understanding of, if something will bring me $200,000 value per month, or if something will give me, I don't know, like 1,000 per month as a value. So you can really start prioritizing, saying, okay, I want to focus on the one that gives me a lot, because that's the best way to start the process. And later, you really use the same idea, the same economic analysis that you've done at the end of your discovery process, at the end of your prototype. And you really put that economic study to test with what you've seen from your solution. And then okay, perhaps it's not 200,000, perhaps it's 250,000. So yay, you're doing more than what you thought you would. Let's continue with this conversation. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And so do you suggest people set KPIs before they start the project, or do you think that then can cause disappointment if in the end they can't reach, or is it even possible to set KPIs at the beginning of a project?
A very good question. Again, every AI solution is linked to a business opportunity. So perhaps setting very high thresholds and very difficult KPIs to meet might be a bit dangerous, but understanding which KPI and which business area this solution is affecting is absolutely necessary. Because at the end of the day, you want to create a solution that really delivers something for your organization. And if you cannot prove it with KPIs, then what's the point really?
Super. Okay. So is it better to always know what you're trying to achieve in terms of what you're trying to affect match to your business priorities? So you're trying to say improve customer service or, add efficiency to a business, rather than have a very specific output for what you need. As in, I want to make a 3% saving. You're better off saying, I want to try and improve customer service and let me see where the data takes me.
Very, very interesting. I think it is. It could be a bit of both. You shouldn't really let the development run on its own and then come back with something like, okay, we've seen 2% increase in your accuracy. Okay, what does that really mean for you? So how can you take that accuracy increase and translate it into the actual business value? You should have a focus. This is a cost savings opportunity, and I'm expecting to get some value from it. You can try to put like a number on it. Yes, do that, try that, but be open then to where you will land. If you say it needs to reach 200,000 and you are 190,000, is it really a failure? Perhaps not.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So here's one I know we get asked a lot. So what is the difference between AI and machine learning?
Okay, yeah. So in reality, AI and machine learning are interchangeable. So you can talk about machine learning, meaning teaching the machine those rules and allowing it to learn these rules on its own. And this is really what AI is. I think the difference here comes when people talk about other ways of learning, like reinforcement learning or deep learning. These are still part of artificial intelligence, but they are more sophisticated than simple machine learning. Deep learning, for example, uses the way, tries to mimic how the human brain works and operates, and uses the same kind of structure of neurons and neural networks to really give you the answers that you want. While reinforcement learning is learning through a gamified way. So kind of creating like a game and learning through different and thousands of iterations of playing that game. All of that is AI, but machine learning is perhaps the easiest part to AI.
Right, okay, thank you. Another question here, I think you sort of touched on it when you mentioned the Snoop case study, but someone's asked about how much data they actually need to really ensure they get a kind of good performance and a good output from using AI.
Okay. How much data? That's the hottest question that there is out there. And it really depends on the use case. If we are talking about difficult problems like identifying trees in a crop somewhere in the world, then you might need a lot of data for that. You need thousands and thousands. In my opinion, a good starting point is if you have 100,000 data points, you're good. But there are cases and there are AI solutions that need far less than that. You can train, for example, anomaly detection algorithms with simple as 50, 100 images of something. So there are solutions out there. In case of Snoop, we were quite lucky because Snoop, although they didn't have any data on their own, they had access to open source data. And actually, everyone has access to open source data. So we could use that and learn from these behaviors. And that's how we said, we validated that a product like that could and will work in your situation.
And are all data types valid, or is there some data that can't be used? I mean, you mentioned their images. Is that a data type that's easy to run AI on?
We like all data. We love all data, and I wouldn't throw away data because they don't. Perhaps in the beginning you cannot think of how they will be used. You can create, you can extract the signal, and that's where a good data scientist comes into play. So you can extract the signal from different types of data, images, videos, databases, in the same way. And that's where you take all the signal and you put it inside an AI algorithm, and that's where the magic happens.
Great, thank you. And then I'll just ask this one lastly, it's about kind of how do you manage the support after a solution or a model's actually been created? How does that work?
Okay. I tend to think AI solutions as actual products. So when you have a product, you want to be close to it. You want to understand how it performs. You want to make sure that you can fix something if something goes wrong. So we do suggest having a management, a support kind of bubble around it. Worst case scenario, things are happening. Sorry. Best case scenario, nothing bad happens, and you continue to monitor it and gain some confidence that what you're doing is great. Worst case scenario, something breaks. That's okay. The support team is there. They help you. They come on board and they fix the problem. Press the right buttons, and then the product is out there again, servicing and being available. So yes, I think it's an important thing to have a support bubble around your AI solution, because that's how you ensure its longevity. If you just let it there, it will get rusty.
Okay, brilliant.
Especially with how data changes. This kind of like these days. Look at COVID, for example. There was a big change in how people consume data and use products out there. That had an impact on a lot of our models that we had out there. So we had to come in and kind of tweak them, make sure that they are, they treat COVID data differently, so on, so on.
Fantastic. Okay, Dimitrios, that's wonderful. I'll leave it there if I can. Thanks everybody for your questions. If any of them weren't answered, we'll certainly respond to them individually following the webinar. So just before we close, we wanted to offer everybody a little bit of a follow-up to the session today. So if you're interested in sort of finding out more or a next step, we're absolutely delighted to offer a complimentary workshop for all the attendees on the webinar today. These workshops, we run them with stakeholders within your own business. We offer two different types. One looks very much at the kind of how we get started side of AI, which Dimitrios has covered a lot today, to really help you understand the data you have and really how to prioritize those use cases that will give you the best value. The other one is for those of you who are a little further down the line. Perhaps you've already tried AI, created your own models, but you haven't really implemented or sort of embedded it into your business. And on that one, we can certainly offer more of a kind of roadmap. We can use our experience to really show you how you can accelerate it and embed it into your business. So if you'd like to take us up on one of those workshops, we'd be absolutely delighted to hear from you, and you can contact us at workshop@inawisdom.com, as you can see at the bottom. So finally, thank you so much again. Our contact details are here on the last page. Please do get in touch if you have any feedback. If you just want to follow up chat, I would be absolutely delighted to hear from you. And in the meantime, just to let you know, you will receive an email shortly with this webinar recording if you'd like to watch it again or share it with colleagues if you wish. And with that, I will say thank you so much. I'll close the webinar and wish you all a pleasant rest of your day. Many thanks for coming.